if everyone could, before we do record these webinars for people to listen to later if they need a reiteration or if they were not able to make the session. So if you could please mute your phone, mute your, sorry about that, I just lost my PowerPoint presentation. Nonetheless, if you could, I'll bring that back up, if you could mute the line by selecting *6. At the end of the presentation, there will be a question and answer opportunity for everyone, but we would like to minimize the background noise and such. So please, we appreciate your cooperation. So one last, before we get started with the recording, one last roll call, please. We have Carol Whiting, Greg Overcamp, Coach Thomas, Louise Thomas, Rob Twig from Frederick, Mike Zarnowski, and anyone else on the line that I did not miss? Okay, all right, very good. Sorry, just hitting one last text. Diane's having some troubles. So Mike, if you could select recording. Thank you.
Yep, we're going.
Good evening, everyone. This is Melissa Kelly with Special Olympics Maryland. Thank you for joining us for the pre-competition webinar for the tennis competition of the 2016 Fall Sports Festival. As you know, I serve as the staff liaison or lead for tennis for the state, so looking forward to hosting all of you on October 22nd, Saturday. If you're joining online, you should see a PowerPoint presentation right now, the introductory slide. If you're joining by phone, please know that this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available to you via YouTube soon after, likely the first part of the day tomorrow, if you would like to listen to the session again and or take a look at the slides firsthand. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. The agenda, we will go through a quick introductory of everyone. We will cover the event information. That means the games as a whole. As many of you know, we have multiple sports going on at Mount St. Mary's University for the Fall Sports Festival. So that's the general information as it pertains to all of the sports. Then we'll go into the tennis-specific information. We'll cover the entries, the schedule, the venue layout, the awards proceedings, which is new this year, reminders regarding the principle of meaningful involvement. We'll also review the individual skills competition events, and then go into some rules, not so much updates, but just reminders more so, as I believe everyone, every area county did have a representative on the pre-season competition. We did have someone just join, so if I could have.
It's Diane.
Okay, great, Diane.
I still don't have a presentation, but I'm working on it.
Okay. So at the end of the session, we will have an opportunity for questions and answers. So if you have a question along the way, please jot yourself a note, and then we'll open it up to the group to answer the questions. We do hope that this presentation is all-inclusive and will answer even the smallest detail. We do have some Mount St. Mary's students working with us. On the slide, it gives an overview of who will be working. Bonnie Lechner is a member of the student organizing committee. She has been working with us for several weeks. Also, Mount St. Mary's student is Mark Yampa. He is an intern, more so, and working with both the Interscholastic Unified Tennis Program and helping us prepare and execute the Fall Festival tennis. The great Diane Michaelis, the tournament director, is.
Hello.
Diane, are you able to see the presentation?
Not yet. I have to set up a new password.
All right. Sorry about that. Many of you are familiar with Diane. She's been our tournament director for many years now. Very happy to have her back. She's very involved and critical to the evolution of tennis over the past few years especially, so we welcome her and thank her for all of her efforts and time, especially in the coming days as we lead up to the tournament itself. And I am still Melissa Kelly. The overall event schedule, delegation registration will open at 7:30 and run until 8:30. Each area county will have a head of delegation designated, and that is the responsibility of that person is to report to the control center to then collect their delegation packet. As you arrive, you certainly want to take a roll or of all of your players, but then you are welcome to make your way to the Not Arc Arena. That's the basketball arena, if you will, for seating for opening ceremony, which will begin at 9 a.m. and run until approximately 9:45. Competition, then we'll get to the tennis-specific schedule, but then you report to your your venue immediately after opening ceremony concludes. We do ask that while we do have, second to powerlifting, we do have the shortest walk to our venue. So please, if you could, keep your team seated and let the other teams, delegations, especially in distance running and flag football, get out of the venue first so that they have the furthest to go, so that they can make their way and get there to their venue in a timely manner. Lunch will be available at approximately 11:15. We'll make announcements when that is available for pickup. Lunch will be bundled, if you will, in boxes according to delegation. So we ask that you send one representative from each program, or some of you are have quite extensive counts. So a few representatives, if you do have a larger roster, to pick up the lunches, and we will announce the location in which that can occur on site. But we are not going to distribute individual lunches to each person. So you can send those representatives, collect your lunches, and go back to the area in which you've staked as your own for the likely the entirety of the competition.
Just one
Please
comment
note
on lunches,
yes.
that your athletes most likely will all be eating at different times. Probably the skills athletes will be done and they can all eat together, but then the other ones who are doing matches, it depends on what their match schedule is, and I know sometimes they get a little upset if they can't have lunch. So, let us know that if we need to delay a match for 10 minutes because your athlete is starved and it's 12:30, let us know that. But just maybe prepare them if they need to be a little bit flexible about lunch. It will not be at a specific time for all those involved in the match play.
Good point. And just a note there, it's better said than assumed that if your players do typically eat sooner than 11:15, 11:30, please do make arrangements to have snacks available. But lunch will be available for all registered delegates. So thanks for that note too, Diane. We will have family hospitality and registration available in the Not Arc Fieldhouse. So as you see your parents, family members in the next week and a half leading up to the event, please let them know that that will be available. Delegation registration we already covered. Please do. We're going to ask you to report scratches on 2 occasions. First, to your head of delegation so that he or she has record of that and can report it upon collection of the delegation packet. And then we will also ask that you report that at the 10 a.m. Coaches and Unified Partners meeting. Diane, just let me know when you're fully.
Oh, I'm on. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Opening ceremony, we will have that, as I said, starting promptly at 9 a.m. That will run approximately 45 minutes. There is a procession of athletes, 2 representatives from each delegation. Your head of delegation should be working to identify those individuals. So unless you hear from him or her, that's really nothing for you to concern yourself with. And then lunches we covered, as well as the pickup. Concessions will be available for purchase in the upper level of Knott Arena. So when we get to the tennis venue map, I'll designate where that is exactly. Family hospitality we covered. The event guide was distributed just yesterday evening. So if you did not receive that, please inquire with either your head of delegation, if you know who that person is, or your area director or your immediate point of contact in your management team structure. So some area counties have coordinators and such. So everyone for whom we had valid emails in our GMS, which is our registration system, should have received that email. So if you're operating under a couple of email addresses, please do take the time to check both of those, and feel free to send me or your regional sports director a note if you prefer to have an alternate email address serve as your primary email. The event, we do distribute an evaluation survey, so please do take the time to let us know how we've done. Many weeks of planning, preparation by the Mount St. Mary's students, the management team group, as well as our staff have gone into this. As you would like to become better at what you do for our athletes, we do as well. So please take the time to look for that survey. It's an electronic link. You can do it quickly on your phone if you so prefer, but the sooner after the event you complete that, the better, and obviously more better recollection you will have to give candid feedback. So we thank you for that in advance.
And I just ask, a lot of you tell us things during the day, you know, things that could have been done better or whatever. Please capture those in your evaluation, because I will not remember. Or write it down and give me a piece of paper at the end of the day or something. But a lot of you give us feedback during the day, good and bad, and that is valuable. But we do need it somehow in writing or electronically.
Great. Thank you, Diane. The parade of athletes for opening ceremony, we covered that. The head of delegation should be working to identify those two persons to carry the banner. So that, again, is not anything really for you to concern yourself with. He or she is handling that. With regard to the venue map altogether, we sort of say to ourselves in the tennis competition area, but just so you know, the capacity and the magnitude of the event as a whole. This is one of 3 multi-sport games that Special Olympics Maryland hosts. So this is, and we're very proud of the partnership we have with Mount St. Mary's University. As 20 plus years we've been there on campus, and they certainly embrace it and do a good job. So this is the venue map as a whole. And then now into the tennis specific information. With regard to the entries, we have a tick up, if you will, in participation this year, so that's great. We have 16 athletes, and that's actually down, which is a tribute to all of you. So our athletes are graduating, if you will, out of individual skills and playing match play, so that's great. We also have level 2, 4, and 5, and you can see the counts there. No need to necessarily go into those. Exactly. Diane, and I will mention that Diane and I are meeting on Friday to set the match schedule. So in that we do take a look at the match results from both the Montgomery County and Howard County qualifiers, which included multi-counties, and then as well would then refer to, if there are any questions about matchups, to your in-house qualifier results. So if you've hosted any of those and have not sent on your results, please do get those to me in short order so that we can consider every entity of the regular season as we set the schedule. Diane, anything to add with that?
No, that's all. We may be back in touch with you after Melissa and I try to plan things out if we've got questions or something.
Yeah, great. Good point. The tennis schedule, as I mentioned briefly, at 10 a.m. So opening ceremony will conclude at approximately 9:45. Please do, again, allow the the other sports, be it flag football and distance running, to make their way to their venue first, and then we're soon to follow. Make your way to the tennis courts. On court 1 at 10 a.m., we will have a coaches and unified partner meeting. Diane will lead this effort. So, Diane, do you want to touch on what you'll cover there?
Yeah, mostly we'll just go over the day. It's mostly going to pertain to the match play. How we expect things to flow. We will have a schedule at that point, see if anybody has questions, and then we'll also talk about the role of the unified partners. And I know all of you have heard this before, but we need to make sure that they understand their role, that is to keep play going. And most of them have played a qualifier, or all of them have played qualifiers, so hopefully that's not going to be an issue. But just make sure they understand what their role is and really answer any questions that you all would have.
Great. Thank you. And then at 10:15, we intend just to start match play, so flight 1, matches 1 through 7. Diane, I'll let you take it from here if you want to talk a bit about how that will happen.
We have 8 courts there. One of them will be for skills, and that'll be the furthest one down, the one we're calling Court 8, and they'll be marked with Special Olympics signage. So Court 1 is the one that's closest to the bleachers, closest to main scoring, and then goes all the way up through 7. So we will start with a match as promptly as we can on each of those courts right at 10:15. The rest of the matches, and they'll kind of be, level 5 will be probably courts 1 and 2, level 4 maybe 3, 4, and 5, and level 2 maybe 6 and 7, and that will vary a little bit, except that you probably will never have a level 2 match on court 1 nor a level 5 match on court 7. So we do that to try to make maximum use of the courts, because as things flow, sometimes athletes are playing on one court and their next match is ready on a different court, and we can't have that happen. They can't be in 2 places at once. So they will, all 7 of those courts will have matches going on almost the whole day. We will have hopefully 8 officials, 1 per court plus a roving one to allow for breaks for some of the officials. We have several who are USTA officials, and the others will most likely be members of the Mounts tennis team, people who actually know the rules and all. And they'll introduce themselves when you get there. Just one thing to mention, only coaches can be on the courts. We used to say head coach, but obviously if you've got 3 athletes playing at one time, you can't be in 3 places. So it has to be registered coaches that can be on the court. They can't coach the athlete during the match, of course, and they can only talk with them on changeovers other than the first changeover. Make sure your parents understand that they are not allowed to go inside the fenced area at all. Most of them sit, on the nice hillside they have there where they can get a good view of the courts and the games that are playing. And then we will kind of have lunch, like I indicated before, on the fly when we'll have some downtime, or maybe it'll work out so that athletes can eat lunch while they're not playing, and we won't have to have downtime on any of the courts. We have a lot of matches to get in, so we're trying to just use the courts as much as possible. Like I said, individual skills will be at the Court 8 area, that gazebo area. That's all going to be taken care of there. Main scoring will be by the bleachers. So anybody involved with match play, when they're not playing, if they know, and you're going to know the order, the play order. You won't necessarily know a time because we don't know exactly how long each match is going to take, but you'll know the play order. We ask that they hang out in that bleacher area, so when we call the names, it's easy to find the players. Sometimes we do have to run around to the coaches and the parents on the hillside, and we lose time doing that. So just please make sure that your athletes know when their match is coming up and that they're hanging around main scoring area within yelling distance of main scoring area. Or I guess we'll have a sound system, so that'll help, so that they can be there for their next match. And the rest of the schedule is kind of self-explanatory. We don't know exactly when we'll finish with match play, and you all know that. We will do it as quickly as we possibly can. Awards will happen as the divisions finish.
Great, thank you. The rain plan, as the sport has grown, we're sort of confined to the outdoor play, but in the instance that we do have inclement weather, we will do our best to make the courts playable with safety obviously at the forefront of our decisions and efforts. But we do have a few courts available inside So the tentative plan at this point is to move some competition inside, but please do be flexible with us if that is in fact the case. If we do have to institute any rain plan whatsoever, we will certainly have a coaches meeting of sorts to identify and disclose what we intend to do and go from there. The tennis venue, the layout, as Diane thoroughly gave, this is just an image to support her, what she gave, the description she gave, excuse me. The awards area is a bit different. So while we went inside to the ARC Fieldhouse in years past, we are actually presenting awards outside, which as feedback we've heard from coaches, family members, and athletes, that this will hopefully make for a better opportunity for those who need to stay readily available courtside to also step away to see some awards presentations and obviously share in that great opportunity. Diana, anything else?
Yeah, no, we think that's going to work really well, because I know coaches are torn between watching their athletes while they're still playing, when another division is finished and is getting awards, and you want to see them get their awards. So hopefully running up and down this hill won't be as bad as running in and out of the building. And it's a patio area. It's flat. There's not a lot of space, but there is a lot of flat grass area around there. So we would be actually doing the awards on the concrete, the staging and the awards on the concrete, and people watching would be standing in the grassy areas.
Great. One note, so Diane did reference the hill. Where my cursor is now, that is a hillside, so it is not unmanageable, but it is somewhat hefty. And then one pathway, it looks to be here, is not in fact, it just loops around to the other side of the patio. It does not extend down to our venue area, so a note there too. And as Diane briefly mentioned, that individuals who are spectating the awards presentations will be standing. We do not intend to offer an audience seating there, because the presentation should be fairly brief, and obviously people will be transitioning from the courts to the awards area. One last note, where my cursor is now as well, so you have the U traffic pattern, the front entrance of the ARC. This would be the entrance for one to access the concessions area. So this is the main entrance to the facility, and this is, in fact, the second level atrium or a corridor, if you will, where the concessions will be throughout the day. Diane, do you want to cover this?
You know what? My computer just died. I
Okay.
just plugged it in, so I'm sorry. I can't even see what you have there.
Okay.
I plugged it in, and I'll be back with you in 30 seconds.
Okay. The principle of meaningful involvement, we will review this at the 10 a.m. coaches and unified partner meeting on site, but we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of this. This was announced in a pre-season webinar, so it should be no surprise. And then as well, it's something that we observed last year. We're able to put some things in writing so that everyone was absolutely on the same page. But it's been practiced consistently for many years now. In a nutshell, it's the intent that the unified partner will blend his or her skills with that of the athlete whom he or she is playing with, and or the level in which they will of their opponent athlete. The idea is not that the unified partner is winning the points, rather setting up the shots and facilitating play. So we want everyone to do that. There should be no aggressive shots, as outlined here, smash shots, rushing the net, or being overly intimidating whatsoever, or aggressive really whatsoever. So we appreciate everyone's understanding and our intent here. We just want the athletes to have a good opportunity and help them become more comfortable and more successful in their event. Hopefully the sport will grow to the point where the unified partners level of play will more closely resemble their skill level, without restriction will closely resemble that of the athletes that they're teamed up with, but we're not at that point now, so we do institute the principle of meaningful involvement. Diane, anything to add?
Just, I don't know if we have this, I don't think we have this later in the presentation, but we will have the officials call out violations of the principle of meaningful involvement, and hopefully it wouldn't be any more than one, and they will be instructed to that, and there could possibly be penalties for when that is violated.
But there would be a warning instituted.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So,
the first one's
yeah.
absolutely a warning, and probably just being talked to by the official will be enough.
Right. The individual skills competition, we will host a preliminary round, which will be everyone participates, completes each of the events. We'll collect a score. They will then be excused to go enjoy lunch for approximately 45 minutes, half hour, plenty of time, and we will announce before they depart the Court 8 what time to report back. During that lunch period, we will tally the scores and then division everyone according to the score collected only that day, and division them, and then they will complete an awards round for and then be awarded according to their performance in that afternoon session. The next few slides, I'm not going to take the time to go through each of the events. You all should be very familiar with those. For individual skills, the diagrams in which reflect the scoring system. And we are very pleased to have the varsity tennis coach, Samantha Pinchoff, who ran skills for us last year, returning again this year, and a number of her players, as well as some of the club team players from the Mount as well, helping with that. Uniform requirements, again, should be no surprises here, but you do want to make sure you're talking with the athletes, the players. Everyone needs to be in proper uniform, be it a unified partner or an athlete, so please make sure of that. So communicate that with when you see them and through various means of communication in the coming days. So everyone needs to have proper tennis attire. We do not want to see any formal or dressy pants. Blue jeans are absolutely not allowed whatsoever. And anyone out of uniform or fashioning a uniform violation would not be allowed to play until that is corrected. So we want to make sure we get this right. We don't have any hustling and changing of garments on site, so please make sure of that. Players should wear loose-fitting shorts, and female participants are absolutely absolutely able to wear a tennis skirt. We do strongly encourage that the bottom garments, the shorts or pants or skirts, do have a pocket or an option to hold a second ball, which, as you know, will facilitate the efficiency of play. If we do expect inclement or cold weather, sweatsuits are absolutely allowed, and those don't necessarily have to be any, while they need to be safe with absolute certainty, they do not have to suit really any uniform requirements. Tennis shoes are required. Please, no black-soled shoes. The Mount largely donates the use of their facilities, and they have great courts, refinished just a couple years ago, and then the facility extended. So we want to make sure we're taking good care of their courts. Doubles teammates must have the same uniform, and then we also require that the uniform shirts are collared, or if a non-collared shirt, that it is acceptable and appropriate tennis attire.
No tank
moving
top.
on. Yes, good point. Diane, do you want to go over the matches and how maybe you administer the matches with one? Okay.
Sure. As we've always done, we're going to have matches that consist of one 6-game no-ad set by 2 points. So hopefully that's the way the qualifiers have gone, and that's the way you've been working your practices as far as no-ad. if we get to, and maybe we have this in here somewhere, if we get to deuce, the receiving team has the choice of which side to take it on, but we do have to have athlete to athlete and unified partner to unified partner, meaning if an athlete is serving, they must serve to the athlete, not to the unified partner, and likewise. So we had talked about going to a different format for the matches, whether we went with, instead of 1 6-game set, if we would go with best 2 out of 3 4-game sets, things like that. And the coaches pretty much after last year's event decided that no, we would actually just stick with the same format. It allows us to get just about everybody in time. Well, we did. We haven't had a problem with that. And if we went to a different format, it would most likely take longer, and we really only have that one day, and nobody wants to be there till 7 o'clock at night. So the slide that Melissa has up now is for the tournament tiebreak. So in the event that 2 teams or 2 individuals have the same number of wins, this is how that would be decided. I don't think we've ever had this happen, so hopefully it won't be a problem this time, but it depends on how many are in a division, and it's certainly possible that you could have
I think we lost Diane. To continue her thought, it's certainly possible that we could have a tie with wins and losses, so rather than being cognizant of the limited court time we do have, we would then defer to this tie-break system to determine the results of the division. Some miscellaneous topics, just so everyone knows, we will have posted the results and the schedule for the day posted at main scoring. So that will be available. And then we will email the results intended to go out via all the email addresses that we have been functioning with the entire season, no later than Tuesday, October 25th. Protest, in the unfortunate situation in which you need to protest, which I shouldn't actually say it's unfortunate, but these things do happen, and we certainly understand that you, as a coach, need to advocate for your players, and you have every right to, and we invite that. So please don't hesitate to inquire or bring things to our attention throughout the day. Obviously, it's a huge venue. We're working with some new student management team members from the Mount. So Diane and myself want to make sure we will not see everything, so we want to make sure that everything is run as on point as possible. So please don't hesitate to bring something to our attention. The games management team will be identified with it's a green colored garment. It's a quarter zip garment, so we will be identified, or you can always listen for our radios, which are usually fairly quickly identifiable as well. So if it is necessary to file a formal protest, please know that it needs to be submitted to the main scoring desk within 30 minutes of the posted results for the completion of the match, whichever is sooner. Please know as well, we would invite that you would give us a heads up, just mentioning something to Diane or myself, if you do intend to write a formal protest, so that we do not continue with play if the outcome of the protest would alter the play. We would rather take a few minutes and halt that, receive the protest, and then continue on again if that would factor into the continuation of play in other matches. Know that only the head coach can file protests, the head coach as registered formally. So please do work with your assistant coaches and coordinators so that they know the system in which that needs to occur. And in the instance that a protest is then appealed, that would need to be submitted within 48 hours to the, you can either submit it while on site to the control center, or thereafter they would go directly to me, again, via email. If there's anyone who has special needs, this could be anything and everything, be it competition specific. We've already collected dietary needs and that sort of thing, but if there's anything that we should be aware of in the functions of the tournament management, please do email us prior to the event and remind us upon arrival to the tournament as well, just so that we make sure that we are hearing and can plan accordingly. We will do our absolute best to make accommodations, reasonable accommodations. There will be medical services on site. They will be roving through the venue, so please know that. Going forward, so we're 10 days out approximately. You can certainly email. We strongly encourage that you get in touch with your area leadership, so your area director or your head of delegation. He or she, those persons would be likely most prompt as we narrow our efforts and really try to buckle down and get every last detail ready for the event. So please do get in touch with those persons. In the instance that he or she cannot answer your questions, please feel free to get in touch with your regional sports director, Diane, or myself. Right now, email is likely the best means of communication, but everyone should have my contact information, which is in my signature of my emails, and you should have been receiving those since a few months ago when the season commenced. So that is the conclusion of the presentation. It sounds like we have lost Diane. So I will pause for any questions. So if those of you have selected *6 to mute your line, you would again select *6 to unmute, and we will open for questions. I ask that you identify yourself by name and then area, county, and ask the questions. And then as well, one last note, the questions should be quote-unquote, the references, good for the group. So if you have any team-specific questions, please hold on to those and email those thereafter. So, questions from the areas. Mike.
Hey, this is Mike. Yeah, just a request, if we could. If there's anybody who's still on the phone from the Howard County delegation, if you could stay on for a question at the end. I have a registration question you may be able to resolve for me. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, this is Louise Thomas. A question on the skills competition and where the athletes stand to hit their volleys. If they adhere to the strictness of the the sketches, the photos there, the qualifying events all have the athletes standing a bit closer. And if you have new people working, I don't know if they're going to be strict on having them stand. No one can stand halfway between the service line and the net.
That's a good point. Thank you. If there are specifications of where those images, Louise, are more so for the event directors to have an idea, or coaches who are not well tenured and seasoned, so you are free to have someone, to move them. That might even be an accommodation that you let us know that you don't want them to strictly stand in that spot or what have you. So if you don't have a skills coach or someone that can be fully committed to the skills event to identify proximity for each athlete, please do put that in an email, and I will convey that to our skills director, Samantha Pinchoff, who's the varsity coach at the Mel.
Okay.
Okay, great. Anything else?
I just one more question. I didn't quite, at the very begin, when everybody arrives, where's the best place to meet? I just remember it's very confusing trying to find your athletes if they arrive. Is it correct for them to meet? Can they gather in one corner of the arena?
Mike, can you answer that, if the arena will be segmented and assigned in the area county, or if it's kind of a free-for-all?
It is kind of a free-for-all. There will be a banner for each delegation if you wish to gather under that. That's not going to be at the floor level. It'll be at the upper level. It's not designated in terms of sections, but you could use that, or if you want to bring your own sign and hold it up, and say, you know, all of such and such a county gather here, you can do that as well. But no, there's no pre-assigned location.
Okay.
So, Coach Thomas, if you would like to communicate to your team, you could, from recollection, I'm sure you could say, you know, meet me at, you know, the back entrance, the, you know, wherever you might designate the front entrance, what have you, under the basketball net, something to that regard, so you can have them congregate there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because sometimes they arrive, but they don't know where to find you, and you don't find them, and you're trying to do the check-in by 8:30. It can get a little, right.
Yeah, so you could say the main entrance of the arena, the interior entrance of the arena. I know a lot of people usually have a bottleneck there. There will be signage for family hospitality. Everyone could, you know what I'm getting at. I don't need to go any further. Yeah.
Okay. And can I ask who our head of delegation is? That means the head of all the sports from Anne Arundel County.
I'm sure that's going to be Greg Mead.
Okay.
He hasn't registered as that, but I'm sure he'll be there and will serve in that function.
Great.
Okay.
Great. Good questions. Thank you. Any other questions from the group? Okay. Not hearing any. Did I hear one chirp? Okay. Not hearing any more questions. Know that you will receive a copy of this webinar presentation as well as the recording of this evening's presentation, both audio and visual. So please feel free to share that with relevant parties. And we look forward to seeing you the morning of October 22nd. And best of luck as you wrap up your season. Thank you again for all that you do for the tennis program and Special Olympics Maryland as a whole. Thank you for joining as well and signing off from the tennis pre-competition webinar.
And again, if Howard County, anybody from Howard County could stay on for just a moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
And Melissa, I'm back.